So coming up this weekend is Kagaribi 14, one of the last two big tournaments this season and probably Japan's last big tournament this season. And going into it, there's actually some pretty big storylines that are all converging that's been happening these past few months. Biggest one being who's going to be number one in the world, probably being determined here. So without further ado, we're going to go through the brackets, kind of figure out who might have the best odds, what things might look like these next few days. I apologize if this is a bit rambly. I'm doing this at like 11 at night right now. And yeah, we're going to go through the storylines from the biggest to some of the smallest to watch out for and why you should watch this event and ruin your sleep schedule. It's going to be great. So first and foremost, there are three players we really need to talk about who are in contention for number one for the full year. First being Akala, been number one before, Steve Player has done it. The other being Dormigi, the current title holder of number one. And the third being kind of who became a dark horse until they just started dominating the second half of the season, which is being Mia, who is ranked fourth and currently looking like they potentially can take number one finally for the first time ever. So first and foremost, let's go over their bracket paths. Let's see what their odds are looking like, what might be some challenges they face ahead, who's the likely one to potentially come out and finally take number one for 2025. First and foremost, we have Akala here. We're going to be really looking at top 192 just because I don't really suspect pools to be a problem looking through them earlier. So first and foremost, he's projected to play Susu, but I think Susu's not going, so it'd likely be Midoran, the pit player, and then Kirofune to make top 48. Really doesn't look like he'll have any issue going forward to get through there. And then we have Dormigi's path, which would likely be Mira the Kazuya or Leaf the Robin player, or Mira the Kazuya player into either Leaf the Robin player or Masa the Falco player. Once again, very strong path for Dormigi. Really shouldn't see any problems for him before top 48. Pretty good matchup spreads likely that he's going to have. And then lastly of the three, Mia has Chan the Fox player, and then either Karage, the Captain Falcon player, or Lax, the kind of swordy specialist Crom, Roy, Sora. This is a pretty strong path for Mia. Top 192 is looking pretty promising for these players just to kind of breeze through. Really should not be running into upsets for any of them this early on. Pretty favorable matchups also for most of these guys, so let's kind of look more into top 48. So top 48 projected matches do get a bit more interesting in terms of these player paths and who have the best shots of making top 8. Akala gets either Snow, the Mario player, or Yoshidora, the Yoshi player, and then faces likely MK Leo. I don't need to tell you who that is, and Shuton. Right now, I think the biggest threat to Akala's path is likely Snow or Yoshidora. Both are players who have taken sets off of him before. I think Yoshidora might have recently, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think Shuton has beaten Akala since like 2023, so that's not a worry. And MK, while has come close, still has not taken a set from Akala. And I think Leo also, we'll talk about his bracket path later because he has a storyline going into this. He did recently beat Anand, which is another Steve player who never took a set from, with, I believe, Pyra and Mithra, but Akala plays Pyra and Mithra in two other Steves. Like, that's a counter pick he's done before, so that's kind of going to be probably tougher because he understands the counter play that the character wants. Joker and Byleth would also both be more uphill battles, but the Joker has come close, so has the Byleth. So like it's definitely still a challenging set, but it is historically in Akala's favor. And might as well get into it now. MK Leo has been on a pretty strong warpath recently. He did win his first North American major in like 2 years at Eugene Bound Summers about a month ago. Also won Legend 6 in El Salvador, but he did also place 7th, I believe, or 5th or something like that at Smash Mania, a French major. But he's putting up very strong, consistent results. Unfortunately, his bracket path, I would say, is not the easiest to make it this far. He faces Fui first, the Yoshi player. Fui also has a Joker, so that's a matchup he might be a bit familiar with. I know Leo has lost to Ron in the past, if I'm not mistaken. He's lost to one of the Japanese Yoshis. He hasn't played Yoshidora before, so he's lost to Ron in the past. I don't think he'd lose to Fui, to be honest, but still up there. And then he either faces Milena Cho or Neo. Milena is definitely a wild card. Can't count him out, but I think Leo should beat DK. Neo did beat Leo the last time they played at Kagaribi 13, so that is something that is a bit interesting of a potential matchup to already kind of send him to losers before even top 48. And then, of course, in top 48, he would have to play Shuton before Aquila. And even though he did beat Shuton for the first time ever, last time they played, I think it was Riptide, beat him 3-0. I think from what I remember, though, it was against Shuton's Aegis. I don't think he played Olimar. I don't think Leo has taken a game off of the Shuton Olimar. Comments will correct me if I'm wrong. So that could be still kind of a trouble matchup. That being said, Shuton hasn't been performing as strongly as he did the first half. Projected likely not to make top 10 by the end of the season. Probably still won't, unfortunately, unless he wins Kaguribi 14. So, all right, continuing on to Doramigi, one of the other people who needs to win this event to clinch number 1. Doramigi has gotten second place at the past 2 big events, being Supernova and Riptide, and was not at Umabura. So, kind of needs this event to kind of clinch it, really. He's definitely the front runner right now, just because he still has no lows. His performances over across the board are really strong. But if Aquila or Mia outplace him, it's kind of over at that point, because then Aquila would have all 3 of the biggest Japanese majors under his belt, which would be plus I think a super major as well. So he'd have more major wins than Doramigi. Probably a much better head-to-head spread, probably winning head-to-head spread at that point against Hurt and Doramigi and Mia and everyone, just if he wins this event. And then Mia, on the other hand, who has been on a tear, winning Supernova and Riptide back-to-back, just won another Sumabato major with wins over like Hurt and Carmelo, who's been having an amazing season. Yeah, I think at that point also, if Mia wins this, he, I think, stands also either tied or has the most premier wins this season. I'm trying to think of all the premier winners. He'd be tied with Aquila for the most like premier wins this season, but would have all of the major wins, like the most major wins, probably some of the most insane head-to-heads against his peers at this point. Kind of to set up the narrative. Doramigi definitely has, I think, the hardest path to top 8 in terms of this top 48, because he has to play Ken, who has beaten Doramigi this year. So that is a scary set for him to draw. It's either Ken or who would potentially be on the other side of Ken loses. Shion likely would be the other player, which would be a better draw. But Doramigi likely will have Ken, who has beaten him before. And if he makes it past Ken, he has to face Hurt. And they trade sets a lot. I think they either are tied or it's like a 1-game difference to their head-to-head right now. So this is not an easy path for Doramigi. And you might be wondering why Doramigi seated so low. He's at 5th, even though he's considered the number 1 player in the world. He's placed 2nd at like at the 2 biggest majors that just happened. Probably should be like the 2nd seed behind Aquila. Kagaribi is really weird with their seeding. They seed based off of prior Kagaribis and then throw in kind of the international players. So it's kind of, the seeding's a bit weird. And unfortunately, Doramigi has a very tough bracket path to even make top 8. All right, and then there's Mia. And Mia gets Yara, and then either Carmelo and Tama P. All 3 of these players have beaten Mia at some point. Yara not this year. I don't believe Tama P has this year either. I might be mistaken. And Carmelo has all the way back in January. But Mia has pretty advantaged into them pretty recently. Hasn't lost to Yara, I believe, in a while. Just beat Carmelo 3-1 at Sumabato, and I believe beat him at another event before the win that he had this year. So he's already beaten 2 times in a row, pretty strongly the last time too. And then Tama P is also a player like who can beat Mia, but Mia, I think, has been more advantaged into the matchup as of recent. So Mia and Aquila, actually, I'd say Mia right now has the best path to top 8 and is the least upset prone compared to anyone else in terms of who needs to win this event to be number 1. The dark horse kind of in this also is Hurt. I know Hurt is likely out of contention at this point. He has some really strong results. He still is a dark horse in terms of his major wins and such. Unfortunately, I just don't think him winning Kagaribi 14 would be enough to surpass the threshold Doramigi currently has, just because Hurt also has some very odd lows this season. So yeah, unless Doramigi drowns or like does take a harsh placement here, it'd be very hard for, I think, most of these players to surpass Doramigi without winning. And kind of to round out top 8, we'll talk about it. Rauru definitely has probably the best chance to make it there. He's also been playing pretty well as of recently. Let's just check his 192 real quick. He would have Gact and then Toragiri. I mean, these are definitely not easy matchups. Or Akio, that's definitely a sleeper, tough one to draw as well. But I will say Rauru has been a lot more consistent than he has been in the first half of the year. I do think Rauru is a pretty strong contender to just take that final top 8 spot. And we kind of presume off of that who has the best path to win at that point. So let's make some hypothetical scenarios here. Let's say Aquila, Doramigi, and Mia all make winners, as well as Rauru. Or they make winners top 8. The person there who likely has the best chance of winning just based off of bracket luck is probably Mia. Mia, while Rauru has beaten Mia before, it's historically very favored for Mia, winning like the past 4 out of 5 times they've played. 11-2 record. That being said, a lot of these are going to game 5, so it's not exactly a free win or anything like that, but he historically can, like, he should beat Rauru, like, and it's pretty likely that'll happen. On top of that, we have Aquila and Hurt. Now, Aquila is definitely a player who has Mia's number a bit, but his record against Hurt isn't the strongest. Hurt definitely has been, I mean, he had to make a Game & Watch pick for just for Hurt, and it kind of didn't, like, it barely won against Hurt the first time they played in a Game 5 set, and it kind of came down to also a 9-hammer, which was pretty crazy, making a really big shift in the game. So yeah, I don't think Aquila is favored into Hurt with this new counter pick yet. I don't think it's entirely proven it. So Mia and Hurt facing off in... Sorry, I was also talking about earlier. We'll talk about both Hurt or Doramigi against Aquila, because I'm realizing I was talking about Doramigi making winners, but I'm looking at projected. That being said, it will likely be Mia facing Hurt in winners finals in that scenario, and then I think Mia would have a pretty big advantage in grand finals at that point as well, because I'm pretty sure Hurt has never beaten Mia. Or if he has, it's only been like once. So on top of that, if it's Aquila versus Doramigi, that is also kind of a matchup that might go either way. I think Aquila is historically favored against Doramigi, but they tend to trade sets at events that they're at together. I know the only other time they've played was all the way back in January at my Suma Top 1, and they think they traded sets 2-1. Aquila beat him in winners finals, and Doramigi beat him in grand finals, but then Aquila beat him in true finals. So it's very back and forth of a rivalry. There was even a time where like he was going Aegis against Doramigi because he was just cleaning up the Steve. So who knows where that scenario goes. At that point, I'd say it's a coin flip, and then it comes down to who's just playing better between Aquila and Mia that day. I'm pretty confident in Mia making grand finals. Like, I think he has a very strong bracket path, I think he has a very strong bracket path. I think Mia's biggest competition to winning this event is going to be that winner of Aquila or MK Leo if they both make it that far. If Leo does make it to Mia, which also is a very tough draw for him in terms of even if it finally beats Aquila, he likely plays Hurt or Doramigi, or potentially Ken, who is another person who has taken sets off of Leo in the past. Hurt, I think they're tied 1-1 if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's like 2-1 in Leo's favor, but they go to game 5, it's close sets. And while he's beaten Doramigi before with the Meta Knight, like back a year ago, the other fall Kagaribi, that was a year ago. This is a very different Doramigi. This is a much stronger Doramigi, and I wouldn't say Leo has historically the best record against Min Min. I know he's said before he'd go Joker against Min Min if he had to face Dormiki, but that's a big we'll see. So there's a good chance that it likely is going to be a Mia winner. That is my prediction, but you know what? Anything can happen. It really comes down to who's playing the best that day and who's the best player. So that's the big storyline. Now, obviously, outside of that, there's just a lot of really cool sets that are potentially happening, especially in this top 192 phase. There's some really competitive pool of players. There's one that was like, wow, anyone can come out from it. I'm just trying to find where it was. Or was that when the seating was messed up? I might be just talking out of my ass, to be honest. But there's going to be a lot of competitive matches. That's kind of where I'm trying to get at. There's going to be a lot of really cool players facing off, a lot of Japan character specialists. But there's one in mind that I want to talk about. So normally at Kagaribi, you get your Wi-Fi warriors who attend their first events because Kagaribi is kind of the staple Japanese event. Last Kagaribi, it was Frontier. He was, the big one, the best Kazuya on Smash made. Ended up causing big upsets over Hero, the Bowser player, and Shattuck, the Corn player. Made some waves, was kind of a storyline around him, and did some insane shit with Kazuya. This time is one that I think if you have known about Japan's Wi-Fi scene for a long time, you'd be pretty excited about, because this is an insane, based on what he's said in the past, it sounded like he'd never attend an event in person, but finally doing so. And out of all characters, it is a Link specialist, and the Link specialist, it is Prangri. So if you don't know who Prangri is, he is a Wi-Fi Link player in Japan. He pretty frequently entered Smash Made tournaments throughout the pandemic. Does a lot of streaming, I know, as well. VTuber streaming, I believe. And has pretty good results at a lot of these Wi-Fi tournaments. Finally went to a local for the first time in this year, all the way back in July, and won. So definitely a player that a lot of people are looking forward to. He's a very technical Link. Compared a lot of people in the scene who knows about Japan's Wi-Fi scene, this has been one of the players that people have wanted to see compete offline for a very long time. And they have a pretty interesting path. Potentially they have Tarako Tori, one of the best little Max in Japan, as well as Yoshidora to make it out on winner's side. It'd be really interesting to see him play Yoshidora. I kind of would want to see him against a top player if he makes it that far, to see if the Link is the truth. But this is definitely the one player to watch out for in bracket. The one that, of course, they once again didn't seed, because he definitely has potential to go on a run, to show off some really cool Link shit. And I really hope we get a pretty cool run from him this tournament. It'd be pretty sick to see Prangri make their debut and kind of live up to the hype that he's had around him for a long time for the Wi-Fi scene. There's quite a few other things going into this. Nothing as big as those things that I've talked about. Some are Rocky and Masa have not missed a major top 8 for the past 3 to 4 majors they've entered. So those are players who are definitely scary to look out for. Carmelo hasn't missed a major top 8 this season. So that's another player who I think they're projected to make top 8. Yeah, based on the path they have, I won't be surprised if they do either. Rocky, I think, is probably the scariest player for him to face, considering he's very good against Steve's. Overall, I think it's going to be a really hyped tournament. I think a lot is worth watching. There's going to be a lot of really cool sets, a lot of cool character specialists. And if you're willing to ruin your sleep schedule, absolutely should watch. So if you see down under there, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, we got twitch.tv/easyfreezy_BW. I will be streaming live probably all of day 2 for Kagaribi 14. Really looking forward to watching this and completely destroying my sleep schedule. Not day 1, just because I'm going to be at SSC Fall Showcase. So if you need something to watch Saturday, Colorado has a big regional SSC Fall Showcase. You should absolutely watch it. It is going to be dope. It has a lot of fun talent coming out, and I really hope Colorado shows up as well to claim some wins and show that we're a stronger region than people give us credit for. But yeah, that is all. I hope this is going to be hopefully a new series I do talking about the super majors that are happening, the stories to watch. Probably will do one for Port Priority as well. See if, because I think Port also is a very interesting tournament, but that's neither here nor there. But that's it for now. So hopefully see you all on Twitch in like 2 days. And if not, see you all in the next video. See ya.